HT Smartcast.
You are listening to a Mint production brought to you by HT Smartcast.
Hello everyone, I am Maulik from Mint's personal finance team. In today's episode of Why Not Mint Money, I'll be speaking to Rajeev Thakkar, CIO and Director at PPFAS Mutual Fund, about his personal finance journey. 2 years ago, when COVID struck, Mint reached out to leaders in the financial services industry to understand how the pandemic had impacted their personal finances. Today, life has returned to normal, and we're reaching out to leading industry professionals to understand how they manage their money, where they invest and why, and much more. Their experiences may offer valuable insights to us.
Hi, welcome to Why Not Mint Money, a personal finance podcast where we help you understand basic money concepts and share strategies for you to build your wealth. So let's get started on your money journey.
So Rajeev, before we get to the more serious questions, so I'm just curious to know how you got into equity investing in the first place. Professionally.
Okay, so there was a background in equity investing in the family. So my father was a equity investor when I was growing up, and at that time you would have these physical annual reports, printed copies coming by post at home. So I had some understanding of the equity markets and equity investing. Interestingly, my graduation year was 1992. That was the period of the Harshad Mehta bull run and the excitement around economic liberalization and all of that. So partly one can say spirit of the times, meaning if I was probably a decade younger, I might have become a computer programmer or something. Most people of my age and my graduation year wanted to go to financial markets. So I got into CA training after my graduation, and then instead of doing tax and audit, moved to an investment bank and moved to equities.
Okay, so dinner time conversations at your place must be about, how the markets have been during the day and whatnot.
Not so much at that time, because although my father was an equity investor, his full-time vocation was something else. So it was not that he was a professional, it was not that he was a finance professional or a full-time investor.
Oh, that's interesting.
These days the problem is more acute, because my wife is also in the same field, and so the chances of dinner conversations being around financial markets is more likely these days.
Oh, okay. That's very nice. When you are not spending time on equity markets, what do you do like in your spare time?
So I spend a lot of time playing online chess. So that's one thing which takes time. Then another thing would be no surprise, watching Netflix, Hotstar, Z5 and all the OTT platforms. Apart from that, I do read fiction once in a while, so novels and stuff.
Do you have any favorite authors that you enjoy reading?
Trying to pick up a few new ones, but some of the ones are the older ones, Robert Ludlum and David Baldacci and those kind of authors.
Oh, nice. So, Rajeev, getting back more to the serious questions on personal finance. So, just want to broadly understand, what is your asset allocation like, say, between debt, equity, real estate, and say, other assets?
So, real estate and gold is primarily for consumption rather than investing per se. So, roughly 13% odd of net worth is in real estate. But that is not so much of an investment. That is the residential house that we actually live in. Same with gold, it would be around 0.5% to 1% of the overall net worth, but very little of it is investment in sovereign gold bond or something. Most of it is jewelry that either gets passed down generation to generation, or something would have been bought at the time of wedding or on festive occasions and things like that. So that covers real estate and gold. 80+% is in equities. So for me, equities is a different kind of thing, because around 1/3 of my investments are in mutual funds, our own funds, and 2/3 of it is in unlisted shares of my own company, so PPFAS shares.
So 2/3 of your equity investing is actually unlisted shares of PPFAS?
Yes.
Oh, that's quite a chunk.
Yes.
Okay, so you really believe in skin in the game, so not just professionally but personally too.
True. And again, the way we have structured the equity thing, not just for myself but various colleagues at PPFAS, is that these are really long-term ESOPs and 9-year, 10-year kind of ESOPs. So it's not a get-rich-quick kind of incentive structure. It's a longer term.
This is fairly high risk?
It is concentrated, yes. So which actually is a boon or a bane depending on how you look at it, with most people who have a entrepreneurial approach to life. So most of Jeff Bezos's net worth would be in Amazon stock, or most of Elon Musk's net worth would be in Tesla stock. So yeah, that's when you are looking at a profession or a business and committing to that typically is the end result of being concentrated in one particular thing. The reason why, again, let's come to someone from the investing field. Let's look at Warren Buffett, for example.
Right.
Now, most of his net worth is in Berkshire Hathaway stock. So why is that not as risky as it seems? Firstly, the company is not a leveraged company. So it's not that the company borrows a lot of money and in a downturn, it may have a problem of meeting salaries, expenses, or going into losses. And that typically would not happen. And the net worth of PPFAS is again invested in a diversified set of companies via the mutual fund. So when we own via the mutual fund schemes, it's not as risky as it sounds.
So when we consider your equity exposure, since whatever equity exposure you have is through MFs and is essentially all through PPFAS, so it will be reasonable to assume that all your international equity exposure is also via that. So how much does that come to, of your equity exposure?
Yeah, approximately 25%, 20 to 25% roughly of equity exposure.
Okay. So then in terms of like market capitalization, if we talk, you are then largely invested in large cap stocks when we talk about your Indian equity exposure.
Yes. So if you look at the Indian markets itself in terms of the profit pool, if you look at the top 500 companies and figure out how much do top 100 companies account for as a percentage of total profits, it's more than 85%. And the market caps are also according to that. So in terms of my equity portfolio, roughly 85% of that would be in large caps and balance would be split between small and mid caps.
So you're like the Indian market itself.
That's correct.
Okay, interesting. And Rajeev, how has your portfolio, I mean, I understand in the case of equity, it doesn't really make sense to look at, say, the last 1 year performance alone. But broadly speaking, how has your portfolio done like in the last 1 year?
Yeah, so day before yesterday it was plus 13, yesterday it was plus 10, today it's again plus 12, 13. So roughly 10 to 13%, which is really the flexi cap performance over last 1 year.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, the private shares would have done much better because of the growth of the company, but that we don't value it that frequently.
Okay. And I mean, like, of course, you're really not like a debt investor. You have like, say, about 4% in debt, but where do you, invest in debt for that little portion?
Yeah, so largely a chunk of it comes via the EPFO, which is there. So every month I contribute to the Provident Fund and the company contributes to Provident Fund. Most of that is invested in debt. A small portion goes in equity by the EPFO.
Okay.
We have some NPS also, so National Pension Scheme. So part of the debt exposure is via that. Liquid funds, bank fixed deposits, and some of conservative hybrid fund that we have.
Okay. And this is like your debt portion itself that you kind of consider as like, your emergency money if you would want to liquidate it?
So for emergency money, liquid funds plus bank fixed deposits are the emergency money, which most times it's equivalent to 2 years of expenditure. But in case of a big market crash, I bring that down to 6 months of expenditure and invest some of that tactically in equities. So,
and Rajeev, in case of like real estate, you said it's essentially, say, the place where you live. So when you're saying 13% of your portfolio is real estate, you're basically counting the house that you own and you live in?
Yes.
Okay, but beyond that, you don't really see sense in getting invested in real estate too much.
So the via the conservative hybrid fund, there's a small exposure to REITs, real estate investment trusts, which are income generating and things like that. Direct real estate as an investment suffers from illiquidity, high transaction costs in terms of stamp duty, indivisibility, all those kind of things. So as an investment, I think for the lay person, REITs are a much better way of taking exposure rather than buying real estate directly. In any case, residential real estate yields are very, very low currently. So it doesn't make too much sense.
Got it. And Rajeev, like if you talk in terms of, broadly your entire portfolio, are there any strategies that have kind of worked for you in the last 1 year, or something that just didn't work for you and, you wish you had done things differently?
Yeah, so 1 year, of course, for equities is a very short time frame to draw any judgments, but slightly longer term, starting early in equities has helped me. I just wish that the allocation was more equity heavy in my younger days. At that time, I would have a mix of debt and equity, which I think was overly conservative for someone in mid-20s or early 30s. But otherwise, things have worked more or less fine for me.
Okay, so in your case, your risk appetite has gone up with experience and time.
That's a very interesting question, and again, I think it's important to clarify things here. So for someone who's close to 50, this allocation may seem very equity heavy. But if you are at a stage in your financial journey where by taking small withdrawals also, or by passive income in terms of dividends or things like that, if you have a visibility of meeting your expenses, then you don't really need that much of a big debt allocation. So for example, if someone is able to meet living expenses out of dividends or by 2 to 3% withdrawals from the equity investments, then via SWPs or something, then one can afford to be somewhat equity heavy. Right. If one really requires 6, 7, 8% kind of withdrawal rates, then one needs more debt probably in the portfolio.
Yeah. So, Rajeev, I mean, you also briefly mentioned that your wife is also from a similar, financial services background. So, in that case, this question becomes even more relevant. So, how involved is your wife or your kids, in your, the overall family, planning for them and the financial decisions?
They are aware of what is happening. So, they clearly know where the investments are and nominations are in place and things like that, but the decisions are largely left to me, so they don't worry too much about where the investment is happening and stuff like that.
And so just coming to the last question, Rajeev, so do you think you are a different parent? Do you have money conversations with your children, and how do you teach them about money and investing?
Yes, we have money conversations with a daughter who's now turned 18. She's also come with me to the Berkshire Hathaway meeting, and she has attended our PPFAS unit holders meeting sometimes. She anyway catches up to the online recording or the live streaming. She's unlikely to follow finance as a profession. She's in the science stream and planning to pursue engineering, but she's aware of how money works, and the money conversations definitely happen with her.
Okay, that's very nice. And Rajeev, so it was really nice chatting with you as always. So, thanks so much for your time.
Thanks, Maulik.
Listeners, that's it for now. Thanks for tuning in. If you have any personal finance questions, you can email them to us at mintmoney@livemint.com, or you can reach out to me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is @Maulik_Madhu. That is MAULIK_MADHU.
This was a Mint production brought to you by HT Smartcast.
HT Smartcast.